That's crazy.
Cool.
We've moved several of our museums around campus.
Yeah.
No respect.
We had no idea this was Ed Catmull's alma mater. Like one of our bosses, Ed Catmull, went here. This is crazy.
This is where he animated the
hand,
the CG hand. This is
the creepy,
the first piece of CG ever animated. Yeah, it was done here.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Our engineering building the whole lobby is named the Catmull Gallery.
Really?
Yeah, we have Pixar stuff on display.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
We were just wondering if like Ed breaks out that video and watches it. They've never improved on the hand.
It'll always
still
be
good. Still good.
This guy.
Because then he did like a flyover of the hand. It's like going through, like the camera's
The
going
fingers.
around the fingers, and it's like, look at that hand.
That's
a hand.
You milked it. You know, get it.
Yeah, when you design something like that.
It's spectacular. You got to show the world.
Oh, without a doubt, definitely. Are we all good on audio and stuff?
Yeah.
Our levels
looks good, right?
bueno?
Yeah. Bueno. Muy bueno.
Okay. Muy bueno. You
Muy
got
bueno,
it.
yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sweet.
I can speak a little Spanish.
Exactly. Tu hablas español.
Right. Okay, no, that's too much.
Can't go beyond that.
No, let's go back to English.
Sweet. Well, we are just kind of, we each have this, so we are with K-UTE Radio and the Geekwave.
Oh, cool.
And then you are with the Chronicle.
Chronicle, yeah.
Correct. Sweet.
So you guys are enemies then.
Yeah,
It's like,
no.
how are you sitting at the same table? Right?
We're the same
Not
department.
scratching each
Battle
other's
royale.
Like you see them right now, you can't even see her.
I can feel it. Tension is.
Pay attention.
But yeah, so it's so nice to meet you. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves to the microphone?
Okay. Hello, microphone. My name is
sturdy microphone.
It deserves an introduction, right?
I know.
I'm Byron. Nice to meet you, microphone. Byron Howard, and this is.
I am Rich Moore.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, you guys are the directors for Zootopia.
Yes.
Which is coming
Should have
out
said that.
Yes.
really soon.
Sorry. Yes. We're directors of Zootopia.
It comes out Friday. March
Whoa,
4th.
That's close.
This sounds like a suggestion
I
to
know.
March 4th.
March 4th.
And go see
March
it.
4th.
To your local theater.
Exactly. I like it. Well, can you guys kind of tell us?
Do you really like it, or is that just lip service?
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
so
okay. I thought you meant the slogan.
Oh, the slogan.
Yeah, March 4th.
It works. So maybe you guys can tell us a little bit about Zootopia. Just kind of a brief overview for those who haven't necessarily heard of it yet.
Absolutely. So Zootopia is an all-animal world where humans never existed, and it is the story of Judy Hopps, this young bunny from the country, played by the amazing Ginnifer Goodwin, who you may know from Big Love and from Once Upon a Time on ABC. And Jennifer plays Judy Hopps. She's a young bunny from the country, and bunnies in this world are not thought to be very capable animals. They're thought to be best suited to be carrot farmers way out in the country. They don't move to the city, and they certainly don't want to become big city cops, which is Judy's ultimate dream. She has an experience with a bully when she's a kid, and she decides there and then that she's going to work for justice and to defend the weak and to make the world a better place.
For smaller animals.
Okay.
So it comes from a good place.
Sweet.
This desire to be a police
Yeah.
officer.
Yeah. And so she does. She, much to her parents' dismay, she moves to the big city of Zootopia, which is, if you think of like a girl from Yonkers moving to Manhattan or New York.
Or a girl from Provo
Moving to Salt Lake City.
It's like that.
It's like just like
like
that.
that.
It's just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Less salt.
The Great Salt Lick.
The Great Salt Lick. That's pretty good.
Come on.
Yeah, as an animal, let's see the animal twist that comes in.
Nice.
So she gets to the big city, and she discovers that her dream of becoming a big cop is not going to be as easy as she thought because
the world's not
easy.
As easy as she thought. You know, it's different than she thought.
And a lot of people just see her as a bunny and don't think she's capable of being a big city cop, especially this fox that she meets, a very cynical fox played by the amazing Jason Bateman, who you know from Arrested Development.
For sure.
And
All things funny.
And very, very funny, very charming. And Nick, if Judy believes the motto of the city, which is anyone can be anything, and Nick thinks that's bupkis. He thinks that, you know, in his mind, we are what we are. We are our stereotypes. I will always be a sneaky fox. You'll always be a dumb bunny, and you'll never be a real cop. And that hits Judy. It hits Judy pretty hard.
Very cool. Very cool.
Really good synopsis.
Thank you.
That was
Yeah,
lovely. That
pretty
was
good.
that flowed nicely and everything.
Had practice.
I know. I've been working on something.
You got the elevator speech down.
You guys have that.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Zootopia.
Very wonderful. So maybe you guys, there's a lot of Disney movies out there. What sets this one apart? What makes this one special?
Well, I think when Byron first pitched it 5 years ago,
Oh wow.
okay. It came from kind of this love of the talking animal genre, like the 70s animated Robin Hood that Disney did, or kind of like Jungle Book, but they weren't really like wearing clothes or anthropomorphic, but like Mr. Toad, like The Wind in the Willows.
Yeah.
There's kind of a long
really cool.
legacy of these kinds of movies that done at Disney and around town at different studios too. But we hadn't done one in a while. And that's what got our boss really excited, because he was like, yes, we're going to do another, he was actually like hugging Byron.
Nice.
Yeah.
Holding him up.
We haven't
jumping
had
around.
any of those.
It's like, we're going to make another one of these.
We like to say he lifted me to the sky like baby Simba. He's very sweet. He's very enthusiastic, very warm.
Passionate.
If you've met him, he's very fatherly. Very fatherly.
Okay.
He lifted Byron the way a father would lift his son. That kind of lifting. Nothing weird.
Yeah, nothing weird. No, it was natural.
From a good place. But John was like, okay, but the one thing that we have to do is we have to make this kind of a very contemporary version of this genre. Meaning, like, we can't just, if it's going to be all different kinds of animals, it's like, we know in the wild, like, predators and prey don't get along, but in so many of these things, they live side by side, and it's like, how did it happen? We have to address, like, how did that happen?
Yeah, they never explain it.
They never do, and it's like, and how can they be comfortable, like, because I remember as a kid reading like storybooks in like Richard Scarry's Busy World, of all these kind of animal characters living together, and something that looked like New York City, and I used to think, oh my God, that's so cool, but why isn't the polar bear hot? It's like, isn't he used to snow? Isn't he like burning up in that suit? And living in New York.
Yeah, doesn't he deserve to be more comfortable?
Yeah. And so it's like, so we tried to answer all those things, in the movie, where we didn't want to just fall back on the cliches. We wanted that to kind of inform the story,
Yeah, for sure.
And we wanted to do it. We wanted to present the movie in computer animation, because we felt like at Disney we've never done that before. It's like we have a great legacy of 2D hand-drawn animated animal movies, but why don't we take what's really cool about those and appealing about those and kind of bring them into the 21st century.
Very cool, very cool. Well, and that kind of ties into your 2D question I have.
So Byron, I wanted to ask you, like, I know you're a lead character animator in films like Mulan and what was it, Brother Bear?
Brother Bear, Lilo and Stitch,
so
John Henry.
Oh, yeah. So I was just wondering, like, how is it like transitioning from traditional 2D animation to like 3D animation?
Oh, it's funny because they back when 2D was starting to switch over to CG at Disney, I trained in CG. And it was funny because I didn't really have a very natural propensity toward it. And I had really good instructors, but there's something about CG that's more almost like puppeteering than drawing, which is so kind of fast, and it's like sculpting and fast and intuitive. And they keep working on our user interface, to be honest, to try to find a way to get a little bit more of that intuitive, natural
drawing,
way of working
draftsmanship
back in. And for me, this actually helped me in a way, because as 2D animation was kind of shrinking at Disney a little bit, I really had the desire to keep drawing. And a guy named Chris Sanders, who was directing a film called American Dog at Disney, he also directed How to Train Your Dragon and The Croods over at DreamWorks. So Chris was a friend of mine, and he said, well, if you still want to draw, you should come to California and work in the studio and be a story artist, because that's what story artists do. Story artists are very much like animators in that they're doing storytelling drawings, albeit they're rough. But it had a lot of what I loved about animation in it, and that's how I made the transition from animator to storyboarding. And I was trained by Chris and Dean Wellens, who's another great guy we work with on the Story Trust, and Dean was one of my mentors. And so I was in the story department for a while, and that gave me sort of the creative juice I was looking for drawing-wise. And in the meantime, I was learning more about CG animation. And about that time, that film American Dog kind of blew up, and it became Bolt, which then I later joined Chris Williams, who was directing that film, to kind of team up with. So it was a very sort of natural transition. And the thing that I love about, and Rich and I talk about this all the time to people, is that 2D is still very much alive at Disney in that, with Tangled, we had Glenn Keane, the amazing Glenn Keane, who did Ariel and the Beast and Aladdin. Glenn was in there drawing over every single frame, every single pose of Rapunzel and Flynn and Maximus during Tangled, during dailies.
Really?
And it's a communal effort, because you bring all your animators in, they watch the screen, and then you see Glenn doing these great drawings, and Tony Fucelli did it on Incredibles.
Right.
And,
so it's kind of a review. It's kind of like a daily review with the animators, where one by one they show what the scene that they're working on. And I mean, it's one thing to sit and kind of say, well, could it be more like this, or could that be a stronger silhouette? But to have someone like Glenn or Byron, who did a lot of this on Zootopia, to sit like at a Cintiq and actually kind of draw over, over the CG, the frame, and to share like those fundamentals, that these guys learned, like Byron learned from a guy named Aaron Blaze in Florida, and Aaron was mentored by Glenn Keane, the guy we were just talking about. Glenn Keane was mentored by a guy named Ollie Johnson, who was one of the famous 9 Old Men, during the golden age of Disney animation. And Ollie was mentored by a guy named Freddie Moore, who is like legendary, Disney from way back.
Like the best Mickey animator that ever.
Really?
He did a lot of
that's so cool.
like
this guy,
and Snow White.
So it's great that the legacy from way back. I mean, the studio is almost 100 years old. Like in 8 years, it's going to be 100 years old. But and still, like, the fundamentals and the appeal and those basics of character animation are being shared through that lineage of one artist sharing it with the next, and mentoring the next. And that's what Byron's doing with like the CG animators now. He's sitting and drawing and showing, like, you can get a better performance out of this if the silhouette is stronger, or the expression is more like this, or if you push it this way or that way, by drawing over it, and he's just sharing the exact same stuff that they used to do like back in the 30s, so, and that kind of keeps it within the realm of Disney, of like people love about Disney, but it's using, the most modern technology to present it. So you get a great mix of the newest medium, but with a rich heritage,
and keeping it alive, right?
That's really cool.
I love that there was a crazy Hollywood scream.
I know, right?
Hollywood scream sound effect.
So
that was no sound.
This is a tough school.
If you don't make a cut, you get cut.
So Disney has this awesome legacy of people that are training more people and stuff that's passed down. And so, I mean, here at the U, we have a lot of people who are really interested in this industry. We have people who want to be animators in movies and in video games. And all of this that want to go into entertainment. And so, do you guys have anything that you might be able to say to those people who want to do that? Any advice to give on how?
Well, I will tell you the things that I wished I had heard in school, because when I was in school, we would have professionals come in and tell us things, because it wasn't a great time in the late 80s for animation, you know, and these people, like these old guys would come in and say like, well, Walt's dead and you missed it. It's like literally, things like that, where it's like, well, the industry's dead. The golden age was years ago. It's like, good luck working in Saturday morning, and maybe you might want to study illustration or something so you can make money. Drawing menu covers. I mean, we literally had a drawing and perspective teacher that encouraged us to learn how to paint so we could design menu covers for Denny's. That's how he made money. So, but I wish that someone would have said, like, the things and we found out on our own. But it took me a while, to figure it out. The things that you guys want to do, or that the people who want to get into this field, are totally possible. It's like the things that the job that we have, like, we weren't born into it.
No.
It wasn't just like something that was given to us. It's like we started just like you guys in a place just like this, and over time of just kind of working, jobs at different studios and kind of getting better at what you do, you can achieve those things. It's like, and more, it's like looking back on the things that I wish for is just so small compared to like what we're doing now. So it's like all that stuff, anyone can get there, and it's not just like a handful. It's like it's totally possible.
Totally possible.
And no one would ever say that to us.
No,
and it took me years to realize, wow, I think that I can actually do this.
Yeah.
So and it just takes staying in the game. It's just if you give up, then you're never gonna make it. And that sounds really kind of simplistic and dumb, but it's true.
Yeah. And off of that, I'd say, anything you can do to feed your passion. There's a reason that you love certain things. There's a reason you love certain stories, and a reason you love certain pieces of music and certain movies. That there's a definite, you're wired. Every person's different to respond strongly to different things, and you have to hold on to that, because that's what makes you an individual. And that's why I think we encourage people to even tell you a story. Glenn taught me this when I was working with him a little bit. I needed to get better at figure drawing, and Glenn Keane, he gave me a book. It's an old book by George Bridgman on figure drawing. I think it was done in the early 1900s, and it has a bunch of George Bridgman's drawings in there, and they're great drawings. And he said, just put down a piece of paper over top of this and just trace over the drawings and try to feel it. Try to feel your way through these drawings. Don't worry that you're copying it. It's not, these drawings aren't to save. You're going to throw these away. But everything is that you're doing creatively, once it becomes a muscle memory, that's when things get really, really good. So what you're trying to do with animation and even decisions you're making about filmmaking or storytelling, you're trying to get enough muscle memory into your brain that you don't have to think about it as much anymore. So we even encourage people, like when I was doing animation tests early on, I said to myself, well, I'm going to do an animation test in the style of Milt Kahl, and I was going to watch all of Milt Kahl's animation, one of the great Nine Old Men, and I was going to try to understand how he did that, why I liked it so much, and try to replicate it. And it doesn't matter that it was copying the style, because I didn't later.
Just trying to learn
it, because you're bringing that in, and you're not. It's not. The point is not to be a duplicate of Milt Kahl, because I couldn't be that guy. I can't make the same decisions. But now that I've sort of absorbed something that I like, then now whatever I put out is going to be informed by that, but it's going to be distinct because it's coming from me. The same way you guys are finding things like, I love that film, and you're taking a piece of that, putting it into your own work, and you're taking a piece of music that you love and combining that, where someone else might not think to combine these things. It's synthesis, and it's about bringing those things together in your brain and paying attention to that gut feeling where you go, I don't know why I love this, but I do. That is so important, and that's so much about how we drive ourselves. It's not intellectual, it's very intuitive. So
and you will not hit a home run first time up.
No,
it's going to. You are going to make lots of mistakes.
Just expect to throw stuff out.
I mean, I look back on the stuff that I directed early in my career, and it's just like I was just like a thrashing, brain dead Frankenstein trying to kind of put it together, and I'm not proud of that stuff, but it was just kind of learning to get to the next thing. It's not going to be like absolutely perfect, and there were times where I was such a perfectionist about it that I almost wanted to give up, and people would say, no, just you're getting better, you're getting there, and I mean, look at John Lasseter. He got fired from Disney like in the 70s or early 80s
because he was doing what he loved.
Because he was doing, he wanted to do the stuff that they ended up doing at Pixar and now at Disney Animation again. He could have easily said like, fuck this, I'm leaving, I'm never going to do this. But he went to Pixar. He built a community of artists that love what he loves, and they all do the same thing, and then came back to Disney as the chief creative officer of Disney Animation. So it would have been so easy to get discouraged you know, that was the place that inspired him, and they turned their back on him and fired him. And if anyone like had the right to kind of say, screw this, you know, it was him, but he didn't, you know, and look where it led in the future.
Wow,
You
that's
know,
really
it's,
cool.
It's weird, you know, and that only comes with having some time behind us. Like,
Yeah.
we've been
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
business
yeah,
for like over 20 years, both of us, and you start to see these things, you know, and it's like, you don't, guys don't see this because you're new to it, you know,
Yeah.
but careers it takes years sometimes for these things to happen. They don't happen overnight. Yeah.
That's really cool. So, you know, I mean, what have you guys, and this is a big, broad question, but what do you guys feel has been the greatest challenge for you in animation, in this industry? Because it's very competitive, you know what I mean?
It is competitive. I think it's tough. I think one of for the first part for me, I think it was waiting to get in was the toughest bit, because I think I felt like I was on the outside. Here's this place I want to be. I can't get in. It took me about 2 years to get into Disney, and I felt like I was running up against these obstacles that I couldn't get around, and it took me 5 submissions to get into the place where I wanted to be. And then once I was in, it was blissfully happy, because I was even saying, when I first got in, I was an in-betweener, which is the lowest version of cleanup in 2D animation. And I was like, when I got in, I had a desk. I was like, oh, I could stay at this desk forever. I could do cleanup forever. I don't care if I'm ever an animator. I was content to be where I was, I think. But it was that first sort of when you're kind of, it's so far away. It's just like you're right there. That's the toughest part for me, I thought.
I would say like the hardest thing the biggest challenge was balancing like passion with real life. You know, because it's like I've had this gnawing bug since I was a kid, you know, and then to try to be both a good director or a good animator, you know, and you're in the middle of everything you love, you know, but it's like real life is going on outside, and sometimes I would miss big parts of it. I mean, like during The Simpsons, there are years, like during those first 2 seasons, I don't even remember what was going on. Like, who was president? What was going on? Like my sisters will say like, oh, remember that time that we did this thing? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like they'll talk about my brother's wedding, and it's like, I have no idea. I don't remember any of it, because my head was just so like in what I was passionate for. And it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing, you know, because I can get to the point of like, oh, I don't need to pay bills. You know, I'm working on a movie. You know, I'm working on a TV show. That can wait, you know. And I can get so lost in it, you know, that it really takes an effort to kind of pull my head out and come up for air, you know, just because it's like you're given all the toys you could ever wish for, you know, that you've always wanted since you were a kid. And it's easy to kind of, you know, candy.
Too much candy.
Like kind of glut yourself on.
Oh,
We got time for one more question.
Okay.
do you want to go?
Yeah, so Rich, I wanted to ask you, so I know you worked on Futurama for a while, which is the greatest show, by the way. What was it like transitioning from an adult-themed show to, you know, Zootopia, which is like a family thing?
Well,
was it hard
I
not to
think
like get those jokes in?
It's easier than you'd think, you know, because Matt Groening, one of like his big things on Futurama and Simpsons, more on Simpsons though, was that it needed to have something for everybody, which is something that we say about our movies, you know, because Matt loved like Warner Brothers cartoons as I did, and he loved Rocky and Bullwinkle, which was an old, you know, cartoon that you guys might know, by a guy Jay Ward, and he loved that they played on multi-levels, you know, and I love that stuff too. Yeah. So he was always saying like, remember, it can't just be for children and it can't just be for adults. You know, we have to give, you know, for every adult laugh, there has to be something that a kid would laugh at, like Fry hitting his head on something. You know, it's there has to be like a slapstick moment. You know, so that is something that I've always, it's been second nature to me. And I mean, we've never like been told don't do anything too racy, you know. In the films. In fact, John Lasseter, when I first started at Disney, took me aside like on my first week there, and he's like, "Okay, I just want to ask one thing," and it's this. I do not want you to make a quote-unquote Disney film, you know. You are here to make the kind of thing that you like, not what you think a Disney film should be. And if it goes too far off the reservation, or if it gets too, you know, too adult, or, you know, too much, we can always pull you back, you know. But don't pussyfoot, you know, around and think like, oh, I don't want to offend anyone. So that is, and I was like, holy shit, you know, thank you. That's like the best, you know, send off that your boss could give you. You know, it's just like, oh my God, John, thank you, you know, for those marching orders. So so it hasn't been that different. And I mean, sometimes we'll go to a joke or something that gets a little like,
maybe that's
okay,
a little too much,
and then, you know, and you get this, you start to have the feeling of, would I want to take, you know, would my sister feel weird taking her kids to this and hearing this kind of joke? And maybe we're being a little hard here or something, but we've never really been told, though, like, that's too much. How dare you?
And sometimes we'll actually let the audience decide, because we do these preview screenings. An example of this, you guys haven't seen the movie yet, right?
No.
There's a moment, and there's a big scare right in the middle of the movie, like a genuine
really
scare.
cheap scare.
A really cheap scare right in the middle
like
of the movie that makes the audience
out.
jump. And we thought, is that too much? Will, like, kids freak out? And, like, will they start crying and stuff? And so we thought, will families be, like,
mad?
Will they mad? Will they leave
How
the theater?
dare you scare my kids?
And we screened it. I think the first screening was where it was in Arizona.
In Chandler, Arizona.
And we were sitting there, we were waiting for this moment to come up, and we're watching
it's
the
really
audience.
white bread little community, and it's like, oh no, and with all these families with their little kids.
We're waiting, and we're looking, and it happens, and the audience does this huge jump, and then everyone cracked up, including the kids, and no one cried. And at the end of the we did this and at the end of the session we did a little focus group where we asked what people liked about the movie, and one kid held up his hand. He's like, I loved when you scared us, and it was like his favorite
6
part
or 7.
And we're like, okay, we'll leave that in. So sometimes we try not to second guess ourselves too much, and we'll actually leave it to that point to let the audience decide.
That's awesome.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you for talking with us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Get some pictures.
Likewise. Nice to meet you too. Nice to meet you. Pleasure. Sorry.
What do we do? Thank you so much. This is absolutely wonderful. You guys gave a great interview. Oh, great.
Thank you.